Have you ever locked eyes with your roommate in the dead of night, only to realize the person staring back isn't the one you thought you knew? What if the guy you split rent with was hiding a secret so dark it made your skin crawl every time you turned out the light? Let us dive into the first of 4 true creepy roommate horror stories that'll make you rethink ever sharing a lease. This is the tale of Ethan, a 24-year-old graphic designer who thought he'd hit the jackpot with a cheap apartment in Chicago, only to find his roommate, Greg, was a walking nightmare he'd never forget. Ethan was scraping by in 2023, hustling freelance gigs to cover rent in a city that chewed up dreamers like him. He posted an ad on Craigslist, old school, but desperate times, and Greg answered. Picture a lanky dude in his 30s, quiet, with a nervous laugh and a backpack that never left his side. Greg said he was a night shift stalker at a grocery chain, which explained his odd hours and pale complexion. He paid the first month's rent in cash, no questions asked, and Ethan thought, cool, low drama. The apartment was a cramped 2-bedroom in Logan Square, all creaky floors and peeling paint, but it was home. First week, Greg was a ghost, gone before Ethan woke, back after he crashed. They swapped small talk once over burnt coffee. Greg mentioned sleep issues, night terrors, maybe some sleepwalking. Ethan shrugged it off. He'd had a cousin who sleepwalked as a kid, no big deal. But no big deal turned into a horror show fast. It started with the screams. Around 3 a.m., a wail like a gutted animal tore through the apartment. Ethan bolted upright, heart hammering, sheets sticking to his sweat. The sound came from Greg's room, sharp and raw, then stopped like someone yanked the plug. Ethan crept to the hall, knocked on Greg's door, nothing. Just the hum of the radiator. He chalked it up to those night terrors and went back to bed. But sleep was a lost cause. The screams became a ritual every few nights, always cutting off before Ethan could check. He started sleeping with earplugs, but the unease clung like damp rot. He'd catch himself staring at Greg's door, wondering what kind of dreams spawned those sounds. Then came the night that broke him. Ethan was deep in a dream when a scream, this time inches from his face, ripped him awake. He fumbled for the lamp, light spilling over Greg standing at his bedside. Not sitting, not leaning, standing, rigid, in baggy pajamas that hung like a shroud. His eyes were open, glassy, staring through Ethan like he was a stranger. Ethan yelled, "Greg, what the hell?" And Greg blinked, mumbling, "Sorry, man, sleepwalking again," before shuffling out. Ethan's pulse didn't slow till dawn. He confronted Greg the next morning, but Greg just laughed it off, saying, "Happens sometimes, I'll lock my door." Ethan bought it, desperate to believe it was a fluke. He even splurged on a deadbolt for his own room, telling himself it was enough. It wasn't. 2 nights later, Ethan woke to a metallic scrape, clank, clank, like tools rattling in the dark. He flicked on the light, and there was Greg, kneeling by the bedroom vent, hands digging at the screws with a pocket knife. The air smelled sharp, like metal and sweat. Greg froze, head twisting slowly, eyes empty as black holes. Ethan stammered, "Dude, what are you doing?" No answer, just that stare, cold and unhuman. Ethan grabbed his phone and keys, bolted to his car, and spent the night parked outside a 24-hour diner, too wired to close his eyes. He didn't sleep, just watched the streetlights flicker, replaying Greg's vacant gaze. Morning came, gray and heavy. Ethan crept back to the apartment, expecting chaos. Instead, silence. Greg's room was empty, bed stripped, closet bare, like he'd never existed. No note, no text, nothing. Ethan's relief was cut with dread. Who was this guy? He changed the locks, scrubbed Greg from his life, and tried to move on. Months later, cleaning for a new tenant, Ethan noticed the vent in his room was loose. He pried it open, heart pounding, and found an envelope tucked inside. Inside were Polaroids, dozens of them. All of Ethan, asleep, taken from angles that meant someone stood over him, night after night. Dates scrawled on the back, starting from Greg's move-in day. Worse, beneath the photos, A broom handle, carved into a sharp stake, wood shavings fresh enough to smell. Ethan realized that night by the vent, Greg wasn't just tinkering, he was crafting a weapon. The screams, the staring, the knife, it was all leading somewhere dark. Ethan burned the photos, tossed the stake, and moved out that week, swearing off roommates for life. If this story's got your heart racing, you're not alone. These tales expose the shadows we invite into our homes, and if you're as shaken as I am, hit that subscribe button now. It's free, and it shows you're ready to face the truth about the dangers lurking in shared spaces. No excuses. Let's keep digging into these nightmares together. But the horror didn't end with Greg's exit. Ethan started noticing small things. Misplaced keys, a chair slightly off angle, like someone had been in the apartment while he was out. He installed a cheap security camera, the kind you link to your phone. First night, it caught nothing but static. Second night, a shadow moved across the living room, too tall, too thin to be a trick of light. Ethan re-watched it 100 times, zooming in until the pixels blurred. No face, no details, just a shape that didn't belong. He called the landlord, who laughed it off as old building vibes. But Ethan wasn't laughing. He started sleeping with a baseball bat by his bed, checking the camera feed obsessively. The shadow never reappeared, but the feeling of being watched clung to him like a second skin. He confided in a coworker, who suggested Greg might have had a key copied before he left. Ethan tore the apartment apart, checking every nook for signs of tampering. Nothing, until he found a single Polaroid under his mattress, missed in his earlier purge. It was him, sleeping, dated a week after Greg moved out. His stomach churned. Had Greg come back? Or had he never really left? Ethan reported it to the police, but without a last name or address for Greg, they had nothing to go on. The case fizzled, and Ethan was left with a lease he couldn't afford to break and a paranoia that wouldn't quit. He moved to a new city 6 months later, but even now, in 2025, he checks his vents and locks religiously, haunted by the idea that Greg, or whatever Greg was, is still out there, watching. What would you do if you found those photos? Would you stay, fight, or run like Ethan? These stories aren't just chills, they're warnings. Trust is fragile, and roommates can hide monsters behind a smile. And remember, subscribe, because if you don't, you're letting these stories fade into the dark. Thanks for seeking the truth with us. What if your roommate's quirky charm was just a mask for a predator who knew exactly how to play you? Could you spot the danger in someone who seemed like your new best friend, until their obsession turned your dorm into a cage? This is the second of our 4 true creepy roommate horror stories, and it's about Lily, a 20-year-old college sophomore in Seattle whose dream roommate, Sarah, turned her freshman year into a psychological nightmare she'll carry forever. Lily was stoked for her first year at the University of Washington in 2024, ready to ditch her small-town roots for city life. Her dorm roommate, Sarah, seemed like a godsend. 21, artsy, with electric blue hair, and a crescent moon tattoo she swore brought luck. They clicked instantly, bonding over late-night ramen and playlists full of indie bands. Sarah helped Lily unpack, even gifted her a thrifted scarf as a welcome to the chaos gesture. Lily thought she'd scored the ultimate college BFF, but the shine wore off fast, and what started as quirky turned sinister. First red flag, Sarah's borrowing. Lily's hoodies, laptop charger, even her perfume started vanishing, only to reappear in Sarah's half of the room, used without a word. Lily brushed it off. Dorm life, right? But then she noticed Sarah wearing her scarf to class, unasked. When confronted, Sarah laughed. "Oh, I thought we were sharing everything." Lily let it slide, not wanting to rock the boat. But the invasions escalated. Lily would come back from lectures to find her journal open on Sarah's bed, pages dog-eared. Sarah's excuse. "It fell off your desk and I got curious." Lily started locking her stuff in a trunk, but the violation stung. She felt like her privacy was dissolving. Then came the mirroring. Sarah started copying Lily's style. Same thrift store aesthetic, same sneakers, even dyeing her hair to match Lily's auburn shade. Friends joked they were twinning, but Lily felt suffocated. Sarah mimicked her phrases, her laugh, even signed up for the same psych elective without mentioning it. Lily caught Sarah scrolling her Instagram, liking posts from years back. "Just catching up on you," Sarah said with a grin that didn't reach her eyes. Lily's gut screamed wrong, but she told herself it was just clinginess, not danger. She was wrong. One night, Lily woke to a faint clicking sound. She flicked on her desk lamp. Sarah was at her desk, phone aimed at Lily's sleeping form. "What the hell, Sarah?" Lily snapped. Sarah fumbled, claiming she was testing the camera's night mode. Lily demanded she delete the photo, and Sarah complied, all apologies. But the trust was shattered. Lily started crashing at a friend's dorm, avoiding Sarah's puppy dog eyes and pleas to talk it out. Then she found the app. Sarah had installed a tracking app on Lily's phone during one of those borrowing moments. It logged her every move, classes, coffee shops, even late-night library runs. Lily uninstalled it, changed her passwords, and confronted Sarah, who sobbed, claiming she was just worried about Lily's safety. Lily wasn't buying it. The breaking point came during finals week. Lily returned to the dorm late, exhausted from studying. The room was dark, but Sarah's bed was empty. A faint glow came from under Lily's pillow, her phone, unlocked, with a text draft open. "Hey, it's Lily. I'm dropping out. Don't worry about me." It was Sarah's handwriting style, not hers. Lily's blood ran cold. She grabbed her bag and ran to campus security, reporting everything, the photos, the tracking, the text. Security moved Sarah to another dorm pending investigation, but not before Sarah left a note on Lily's bed. "You'll miss me when I am gone." Lily didn't. She got a single room, changed her number, and blocked Sarah everywhere. But months later, in 2025, she still gets anonymous texts, random emojis, no message. She knows it's Sarah, watching from the shadows. If this story's got you checking your own phone's apps, Dante, stop there. Hit subscribe to stay locked into these chilling truths about the people we let into our lives. It's free, and there's no excuse to miss out on protecting yourself from the next Sarah. The aftermath wasn't clean. Lily's grades tanked that semester. The stress of constant vigilance ate at her focus. She saw a campus counselor who called Sarah's behavior obsessive identity theft. Lily learned Sarah had a history. Another roommate from her freshman year had filed a similar complaint, but it got buried in bureaucracy. Lily pushed for action, and Sarah was eventually expelled after more evidence surfaced. A hidden folder on Sarah's laptop with photos of Lily sleeping, dating back months. Lily moved off campus, but the paranoia lingers. She checks her locks, her phone, her life, terrified Sarah's still out there, waiting to step back into her shadow. What would you do if your roommate tried to become you? Would you confront them or cut and run? These stories remind us that trust can be a trap. And remember, subscribe. Because if you don't, you're letting these stories fade into the dark. Thanks for seeking the truth with us. What if your roommate's late-night rituals weren't just quirky habits, but a gateway to something so sinister it left you questioning reality itself? Could you sleep soundly knowing the person across the hall was inviting darkness into your home? This is the third of our 4 true creepy roommate horror stories, and it's about Mia, a 27-year-old nurse in Denver, whose roommate, Claire, turned their shared loft into a nightmare of occult terror she'll never shake. Mia moved to Denver in 2024 for a hospital job, eager for a fresh start after a rough breakup. She found Claire through a local housing group on Facebook, a 30-year-old yoga instructor with a calm vibe and a knack for herbal teas that smelled like a forest after rain. Their loft was a cozy, open-plan space, all exposed brick and skylights, perfect for 2 professionals. Claire seemed chill, leaving little notes about recycling and offering Mia homemade chai. But there was an edge. Claire's room was always locked, and she'd vanish for hours at night, coming back smelling of smoke and something metallic. Mia figured it was just incense or late-night hikes. She'd learned soon enough it was neither. The first sign was the chanting. Mia worked night shifts, so she'd crash during the day. But around 2 a.m., low murmurs would drift from Claire's room. Rhythmic, guttural, in a language Mia couldn't place. It wasn't Spanish or French. It felt older, heavier, like it carried weight. Mia knocked once, asking if Claire was okay. The chanting stopped, and Claire cracked the door, eyes wide, saying, "Just meditating, don't worry." Mia let it go, but the sounds grew louder over weeks, paired with faint scratches like nails on wood. She started sleeping with noise-canceling headphones, but the unease burrowed deep. Then came the symbols. Mia noticed faint chalk marks on the loft's shared walls, spirals, jagged lines, things that looked like runes from a horror flick. She asked Claire, who laughed, calling them art projects for a mindfulness workshop. Mia wasn't convinced but didn't push. One night, coming off a 12-hour shift, she found a circle of candles in the living room, wax dripped in patterns, with a small mirror in the center reflecting nothing but darkness. Claire wasn't home. Mia snuffed the candles, heart racing, and Googled the symbols. Some matched occult sigils tied to summoning rituals, according to sketchy forums. She laughed it off. Overtired nurse brain, right? But the mirror stayed in her mind, like it was watching her. The real terror hit on Halloween 2024. Mia got home early, expecting Claire to be at a yoga retreat. Instead, she found the loft dim, lit only by candles. Claire knelt in the center, surrounded by those symbols, now painted in something dark and sticky. A knife glinted beside her, smeared with what looked like blood. Mia froze, her voice barely a whisper. "Claire, what is this?" Claire's head snapped up, eyes unfocused, voice low. "You shouldn't be here." Mia backed toward the door, but Claire stood, knife in hand, muttering in that strange tongue. Mia bolted, locking herself in her car, and called 911. Police arrived, but Claire was gone, the loft empty except for the candles and symbols. They found no blood, just red paint. But Mia wasn't reassured. She broke the lease and moved out the next day, crashing with a coworker. If this story's got you side-eyeing your own roommate's weird habits, dawn to sleep on it. Hit subscribe to stay in the know about the darkness some people bring home. It's free, and there's no excuse to miss these warnings. Mia's new place wasn't a sanctuary. She started getting packages, unmarked, with no return address. Inside, candles, mirrors, even a photo of the loft's symbols. She reported it, but the police had no leads. Claire had vanished, no forwarding address. Mia's sleep eroded, plagued by dreams of Claire's voice chanting her name. She saw a therapist who suggested PTSD from the ordeal. In 2025, Mia found a forum post from another Denver tenant describing a roommate matching Claire. Same rituals, same disappearance after a confrontation. Mia's still looking over her shoulder, convinced Claire's out there, still chanting, still watching. Would you have stayed after the first chant, or run at the sight of those symbols? These stories show how thin the line is between eccentric and evil. And remember, subscribe, because if you don't, you're letting these stories fade into the dark. Thanks for seeking the truth with us. What if your roommate's bromance was a twisted game to steal not just your stuff, but your entire life, piece by calculated piece? Could you trust the guy you be splitting beers with when his eyes linger too long on your every move, like he's memorizing you for something sinister? This is the fourth of our 4 true creepy roommate horror stories, and it's about Jake, a 29-year-old mechanic in Austin, Texas, whose roommate Derek turned their shared bungalow into a psychological battlefield that left scars he'll never outrun. Jake was a grease-under-the-nails kind of guy in 2024, clocking long hours at an auto shop in East Austin to keep up with the city's skyrocketing rent. $2.00 a month for a 2-bedroom bungalow that had seen better days. He needed a roommate to make ends meet, so he posted on a local housing app. Enter Derek, a 32-year-old freelance coder with a quick grin, a 6-pack of Shiner Bock, and stories about his tech gigs that sounded legit enough. Derek was all charm, knew his way around a carburetor, quoted lines from Jake's favorite action flicks, even offered to build a website for Jake's side hustle fixing up vintage bikes. They'd grill steaks on the sagging back porch, blast classic rock, and Jake thought, this is what adulting should feel like. Easy, solid, like finding a brother you didn't know you needed. But Derek's vibe had a shadow, one Jake missed until it started choking him. It began with the questions. Too many, too personal. Derek wanted Jake's life story, where he grew up in Lubbock, why he split with his ex, what his mom's cooking was like. Jake used to shop talk with the guys, figured it was just bonding. But Derek's memory was uncanny, recalling details Jake barely mentioned, like the exact date, March 17, 2022, when Jake's ex walked out. Derek would bring it up casually like, "Man, sucks she left you on St. Patty's, huh?" Jake's skin prickled, but he brushed it off. Then Derek started showing up at the auto shop uninvited, chatting up Jake's co-workers, buying them coffee, calling it supporting the crew. Jake's boss, a grizzled vet named Mike, pulled him aside after a week of this. "Your buddy's intense, man. Watches you like a hawk." Jake laughed, but the unease settled in his bones. The real red flags came with the thefts. Jake's tools, his livelihood, started disappearing. A $200 Torque wrench, a set of sockets, even his favorite ratchet. They'd turn up in Derek's room, tangled with his laptop cables and empty Monster cans. Derek swore it was accidental, said he'd grabbed them while organizing. Jake, not one for confrontation, let it slide, but started locking his toolbox. Then his truck broke down, a 2015 Ford F-150 he babied like a child. The battery was dead, wires sliced clean, not frayed. Jake took it to a buddy's shop, and the mechanic whispered, "This was no accident, man. Someone cut these." Jake's stomach dropped. He confronted Derek, who offered to fix it, with a grin that didn't match his eyes. Jake declined, paid $400 out of pocket, and started locking his bedroom door. The tension thickened. Jake noticed scratches around his doorknob, like someone tried picking it with a paperclip. He'd come home to find his desk drawers slightly ajar, papers shuffled. Derek's excuses piled up. "Thought I heard a mouse," or "was looking for a pen." Jake's gut screamed to kick him out, but the lease was joint, and Austin's housing market was a nightmare. $20,500 for a one-bedroom. No way he could swing it. Then came the bank account. Jake checked his balance one morning in October 2024. $3,127 gone, drained overnight. The bank traced logins to their home Wi-Fi, time-stamped 2 a.m. when Jake was asleep. He confronted Derek, voice shaking. "Did you use my laptop?" Derek admitted he'd borrowed it to check some code, but swore he didn't touch the bank. Jake's blood boiled. He knew it was a lie. He bought a $50 nanny cam, hid it in a living room plant. The footage was a gut punch. Derek, at 3 a.m., hunched over Jake's laptop, muttering Jake's social security number like a prayer. He typed furiously, pausing to glance at Jake's locked door. Jake's hands shook as he saved the video, called the cops, and packed a bag. By the time police arrived, Derek was gone, room cleared out, bed made, nothing left but a post-it on the fridge. "You're welcome." Jake's money was never recovered. The cops traced Derek's ID to a stolen one from a guy in Dallas dead since 2023. Derek wasn't just a thief, he was a ghost. If this story's got you clutching your wallet, don't just sit there. Hit subscribe to stay one step ahead of the Dereks out there. It's free, and there's no excuse to let these predators catch you off guard. Jake tried to rebuild. He broke the lease, ate the $1,000 penalty, and moved to a cramped studio in South Austin. But Derek's shadow clung like oil. Jake started getting calls from unknown numbers, silence, then heavy breathing, always at night. Mail arrived addressed to Derek. Junk ads, credit card offers, all with Jake's new address. He reported it, but the police hit a dead end. The postmarks were from random Texas towns, untraceable. Jake's co-workers at the shop mentioned a guy matching Derek's description. Tall, wiry, always in a black hoodie, hanging around the parking lot, but he'd vanish before Jake could confront him. Jake's sleep fractured. He'd wake at every creak, expecting Derek's face at the window. He confided in Mike, his boss, who suggested Derek might have cloned Jake's phone or planted a keylogger. Jake Factory reset everything, changed his bank accounts, even got a new social security number, a nightmare process that took months. But the damage was done. His credit score tanked from Derek's fraudulent applications, and he's still fighting disputes in 2025. Worse, Jake found a burner phone hidden in his old bungalow's attic during the move-out. Cheap, prepaid, with texts to an unknown number. He's close to breaking. Keep pushing? Jake turned it over to the cops, but no leads. He wonders if Derek had an accomplice, someone still watching. The paranoia eats at him. Jake stopped dating, stopped trusting, stopped feeling safe. He installed cameras at his new place, checks them obsessively. A therapist called it PTSD, but Jake calls it survival. He read online about others in Austin. Same story, charming roommate, sudden betrayal. One Reddit thread from 2024 described a coder named Derek, who vanished after draining a tenant ES savings. Jake's sure it's him, still out there, coding his next con, targeting the next Jake. Every new face at the shop, every stranger at the bar, gets a second glance. Is it Derek, waiting to finish what he started? What would you do if your roommate stole your identity? Would you hunt them down or hide? These stories scream one truth. Trust can be a trap, and monsters wear friendly faces. And remember, subscribe, because if you don't, you're letting these stories fade into the dark. Thanks for seeking the truth with us.